Now, as we inch closer and closer to closing out 2024, after all the craziness that's happened in the market this year, I think it's a good time to once again go through and talk about some of my favorite dividend growth ETFs as of right now, knowing what I know now and the future outlook of how I think the market is going to move looking forward. So in this video, we're going to do exactly that. I'm going to go through 3 of my favorite, as of right now, dividend growth ETFs that I not only own as of right now, but I'm looking to buy a lot more of throughout the rest of this year and beyond. So if you're a dividend growth investor and you want to see some of the highest quality dividend growth ETFs, in my opinion, and dig into them with me, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into the first one. Real quick, for those that haven't already, make sure to go to the first link in my description and grab my new dividend investing ebook, where I share exactly how I went from $0 invested to now earning over $6,000 on a monthly basis and over $1 million invested in the market. Along with the ebook, you're also going to receive my custom dividend tracker, where you can track your dividend progress on an ongoing basis and reach your dividend investing goals. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. So the first dividend growth ETF, my number one favorite still as of right now, I've been talking about this one for a few years now, but I'm still buying it basically every single day, is the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, or ticker symbol SCHD. Now, by this point, I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you're watching this video, you know a lot about SCHD. And if you're interested in learning more about it, I talk about this ETF a lot on my channel. So go through some of my older videos if you want a deep dive. But basically, SCHD's fund objective is to track as closely as possible before fees and expenses the total return of the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index. Now, SCHD is low cost to hold on to with an expense ratio of 0.06%, has a very diversified basket of holdings, and has a rock solid methodology, which makes this fund more or less unstoppable, which, speaking of unstoppable, this ETF as of recently actually hit a brand new fresh all-time high. Now, even though we saw SCHD slump over the last few years, a lot of investors sort of wrote this one off for good. I was still under the impression that SCHD was going to find its way back on track because of the high quality basket of holdings that it tracks. And what do you know, not too long after, this ETF, just like I said as of recently, hit a brand new fresh all-time high. Now, SCHD is one of my favorites because of the strong forward dividend yield at around 3.5% more or less, but also, I've talked about this ad nauseum at this point, the high quality dividend growth rate that we've seen time and time again historically with this one. Now, my plan moving forward is to stack as many shares of SCHD today, basically, meaning ASAP, and then hold onto this one long into my retirement and get paid more and more cash flow, hopefully long term. And it really doesn't get any much better than this. If you would have invested $10,000 and reinvested the dividends along the way with SCHD, you would have had an average annual total return of not 9%, not 10%, not 11%, but 13.02% over the last 12.8 years. Or you would have turned that $10,000 into around $48,000, which is amazing. SCHD over time historically has been a slow, steady winner that's recovered during every single dip we've ever seen from it, and that's why this is my number one favorite dividend growth ETF of all. But speaking of high quality dividend growth ETFs, this is one of my new favorites. I've been grabbing some more shares of this one as of recently, and I've been seeing a lot more dividend growth investors talk about this one. I'm talking about ticker symbol FDVV, or the Fidelity High Dividend ETF. Now, this ETF's objective says right here, provide investment returns that correspond before fees and expenses, generally to the performance of the Fidelity High Dividend Index. And one of the main reasons I like FDVV is because this ETF has a decent starting dividend yield at right around 2.9% more or less, which is higher than some of the other dividend growth ETFs, so you are getting a decent amount of cash flow from day one. But on top of that, FDVV has a really high quality basket of holdings, the top 10 having some high beta names in there, like Nvidia, Microsoft, and Apple, for example, which is most likely going to give this ETF a lot more juice when it comes to a bull market, which I personally think we're going to see sometime soon here. Now, this ETF, just like SCHD and others, has basically not only kept on going up historically, but during every massive dip that we've seen FDVV have, it's always returned and then went up from there. Over the max time frame, over the last, say, 8 or so years, the ETF is up around 99% as far as price return goes, and that's not even including dividends. The expense ratio is 0.15%, so it is about double that of SCHD, but still, it's relatively cheap to hold on to. Now, like I mentioned, as far as the dividend growth game, you are going to see a lot of the dividend growth names offer a smaller starting yield, but then have some substantial dividend growth historically. But FDVV has a 2.84% trailing 12-month dividend yield, and although the dividend growth historically has been a little bit shaky, there's been times where the dividends have been going up and times where they've been going down a little bit. Over the last year or so, it does seem like FDVV has been paying more and more cash flow to investors. Now, FDVV is not necessarily going to be the biggest as far as growth or the biggest as far as income goes, but it has a nice balance of both of that, which is why this ETF is one of my new favorites, and I am going to be building out a largest position in the up and coming months, most likely with this one. And to see the performance historically, a $10,000 investment in FDVV with dividends reinvested over the last 8 or so years would have returned investors around a 12.89% average annual total return. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but I'm very happy with anywhere from around 8%, 10%, 12%. That would be amazing. So the fact that this ETF historically has on average returned around 12%, 13%, or turned $10,000 into $26,000 plus over this time frame is very, very outstanding. Now, the last high quality dividend growth ETF, one of my favorites as well, this is another one that I'm going to be building out a position probably in 2025, is ticker symbol DGRO, or the iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF. Now, this ETF's objective is pretty simple. It says the iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF seeks to track the investment results of an index composed of US equities with a history of consistently growing dividends. Now, I mentioned a lot of times before on my channel that dividend growth is very, very important to me. I don't necessarily need every single position in my long-term portfolio today to be paying me a ton of income, but I either want a decent amount of income today or later on, whatever investments I have in my portfolio, they better be paying me more and more over time. Now, DGRO is super cheap to hold on to at a 0.08% expense ratio. It has grown like crazy over time, up around 148%, and this is over the last 10 or so years, and this is not including dividends. DGRO does sort of have a perfect mix of low beta and high beta names. It's ultra diversified with over 400 different holdings and top names like Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, Apple, etc. This ETF pretty much has everything and has a very well balanced breakdown, if I do say so myself. But on top of that, DGRO does offer a 2.3% trailing 12-month dividend yield. And even though this ETF doesn't offer the largest starting dividend, as you can see historically, this ETF has paid investors around 7%, 8%, 9% more every single year. So again, if you're not necessarily worried about getting the most income today, but you want to get paid more and more cash flow as time goes on, that is likely going to happen if you invest into DGRO, at least based off of historical numbers. And as far as total return goes, DGRO of course checks out also, 11.85% on average with a $10,000 investment and dividends reinvested along the way over the last 10.21 years, or around 213% plus on the total return since inception. So again, what I would like to consider a perfect dividend growth ETF foundation for a long-term investor's portfolio, DGRO has a perfect mix of everything. When I first started investing, I wish I would have just bought into things like DGRO, SCHD, or even FDVV instead of single stock picking and making so many mistakes when I first started investing. So there we have it. Those are 3 of my favorite dividend growth style ETFs as of right now as we head into late 2024, early 2025. And again, this is just based off of the current market conditions, what I'm personally interested into as of right now, etc. Now, there's tons of other high quality dividend growth ETFs across the markets. I mean, heck, I even own some of my portfolio, as you can see right here. But as of right now, SCHD, FDVV, and DGRO are some of the highlighted dividend growth style ETFs that I would look into if you are a dividend growth investor looking to add some things to your portfolio as of right now. But now that we talked about some of my favorite dividend growth ETFs, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Out of all the ETFs across the stock market as of right now, what are some of your favorite dividend growth names? Drop the ticker symbols in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.